All right, we'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope everyone's staying healthy and safe. So we are getting really close to the end of the semester here. So today I'm going to just cover the final project in a little more detail, talk about the steps for that, and then what we're doing moving forward here after this week. So let me share my screen here. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're at the end, basically. So this week, you guys hopefully have kind of already started your final project website, at least the initial steps of that. So the planning and I know you guys have worked on the site maps and the wireframes and all that. So hopefully you've started to code and put some stuff together. But I wanted to cover a few things here as far as like the timeline. So this week, at the end of the week on Friday, we have the first kind of draft of your homepage needs to be ready. Okay, so it's called web project responsive web design. And with this, I just want to see your, just the homepage. It doesn't have to be any of the other pages. And it has to just be kind of a functioning page, okay? So it doesn't need the final text or even the final graphics that you want to use. You can use placeholder text and stuff for that if you want to. But I just want to check, make sure you're having, make sure that you're responsive, media queries, using Flexbox or Grid, the Flex Grid, to make sure that's all working. Okay, so it works well on mobile as well as desktop. Okay, so that's what we'll be due at the end of this week. So this week you really need to focus on that, the homepage. And really once you have that homepage done, that can kind of be sort of a template for the rest of your pages. Okay, so as far as like the navigation and everything, your site should pretty much use the same navigation and all that. So once you have that, then it's just a matter of kind of customizing the rest of your pages for the site. Okay, so that's the main priority for this week, is to have that done. I also have a link here just in case anybody wants to try this. I've had a couple students use this last year. It's just kind of a neat little trick to create a responsive menu, just using CSS, no JavaScript needed. Okay, so if you want to watch that video and see how they do that, it's pretty slick the way they do that. So that creates that, what I call the hamburger menu on the mobile view, where you can touch that and then it opens up a menu for your navigation. Okay, so check out that video if you want to. You don't have to use that. That's just one option that's available for you. Okay. All right. So then your final project and also your project presentation are both going to be on December 7th. Okay. So that's Monday finals. Okay. Let me see if I have the time on the presentation here. No, I don't. Let me open that up. Well, actually, it should be in the syllabus. Let's take a look here. Okay. All right. So the presentations will be Monday, December 7th at 4:10 p.m. Okay. So just kind of keep a note of that. Everybody will need to be zoomed in and make sure that you're able to share your screen when you do that for the presentation, because I'll have you present your site and go through all the features of it and everything. So you'll need to be on a computer that has screen sharing capability and also audio. So you want to make sure your mic is working so we can hear what you're talking about. Okay. All right. So that's the presentation. So the next thing I want to do today is go through, I have some documents here that are listed in these assignments. So there's the rubric for the presentation. Okay, I'll go over that. And then also, if you click into the final project assignment, there's some documents in here as well that have like best practices for the features that you need to include in your site, and also the main rubric for the project. All right, so let's go over those real quick. Let's start with the best practices checklist. Okay, let me just make this full screen. All right. So when this will be a good kind of checklist to use when you're going through and putting your final project together. Again, think about your target audience. Okay, so this goes back to when you first submitted your idea for your site. We talked about target audience. Okay, so make sure that you're using colors and design elements that go along with that target audience. Having a consistent header, nav area. Okay, kind of talked about that. Page footer. Okay, so you have an email address or some kind of a contact info down there. Think about contrast. Okay, so we talked about color theory in chapter 5 earlier in the semester, right? So think about that. Make sure that it looks well on desktop. Okay, so we talk about, there's a phrase that we use in the industry called above the fold. Okay, so that's kind of what shows up on the desktop screen. I probably need to update this because most resolutions nowadays are at like 1920 by 1080. Okay, 1024 by 768 was a little bit lower resolution on as far as desktop displays, but you might check it on if you have access to a couple different computers, see how that looks on the desktop screen. Make sure that you're not cutting off any really important information below where people have to scroll to see it. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have, you don't want to have any really large graphics in there. Okay. So you want your homepage to be able to load pretty quickly, right? So don't have any like 20 megabyte graphics that you're using on the header or anything. Make sure that you have graphics that are smaller in size so that they load up pretty easily. As far as the navigation, make sure that they're consistent across all your pages, easy to use, easy to see. So think about that color contrast so that the text for those shows up, right? Make sure that all your hyperlinks for all those navigation links, make sure that that works, right? Think about the structuring, so the syntax that we use. Remember, we set those up as unordered lists, right? And then we use CSS to style that, okay? And then as far as the presentation, think about fonts. You know, you don't want to use any kind of crazy fonts that are hard to read, like a script font or something like that. You're going to want to stick with your kind of consistent sans serif fonts like Arial or Verdana, Lucida Sans, I think is another one, even Helvetica, or a serif font like Times New Roman or Georgia, okay, something like that. And think about the writing, okay? So I will kind of look at your writing. You don't want to have any typos, okay? You want to have sentences that make sense. Make sure that your information is easy to find, okay? We talked about the 3-click rule, right? You don't want people clicking like 5 times into your site to try and find some information, okay? So your sites, all of them should be pretty simple, so shouldn't have any issue with that. You don't want to use click here. So number 10 there, that's a bad habit to get into. So write out the text for your hyperlinks if you're linking to something, okay? Color and graphics, right? Again, think about your color scheme that you want to do. You probably want to have 3 to 4 colors, plus your neutrals, you know, like white and black. Make sure that you use your color consistent and that you have good contrast between the text and the background. All right. In graphics, talked about graphics, make sure that they're sized properly and not large. Multimedia. So for here, you can, so for one of your pages, you can embed a YouTube video as an iframe. If you want to do that, you just go to YouTube, click the share button, hit the embed, and it'll give you the code to embed an iframe. If you have your own MP4, MPEG-4 files or something like that, you can embed those as well. But most of the time, YouTube is the most common way to embed your multimedia. All right. Functionality, again, so make sure all your links work. Make sure that so you'll have a form on your site. I'm not expecting the form to, I'm not expecting you to set up any kind of back-end service with that, okay? Just make sure that the form's coded correctly with the correct syntax. If you do use JavaScript, make sure that your JavaScript is working, that you don't have any errors with the JavaScript, okay? Browser compatibility, again, make sure that it works on the main browsers like Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and then also on the mobile. You might want to test it on mobile if you can. If you want to, just Google phone emulators, and there's a lot of different options out there to test some of your pages on how they'll look on the phone. All right, and accessibility, okay, remember we use our alt description text for all of our graphics, okay? And, we use image tags, okay, things like that, all right? So you'll probably want to make sure that you validate your HTML and your CSS before you have the final version. All right, so let's go over, all right, so this is the main rubric for the site. Okay. Okay, all this stuff up here is pretty basic. You'll use an external style sheet, right? Same as you were doing in the case study. You need to have at least 6 pages. So the home page and then at least 6 content pages. You can have up to 10, but you don't really need to have more than 10 for this project. And then again, just make sure that everything's working on the appropriate screen sizes for desktop and mobile. You want to name your homepage index.html, right? You want to include the appropriate meta tags. And again, this is kind of going over some of the same stuff that we just talked about. Text, short, bullet points are good. Make sure that you have your hyperlinks working. You'll need to have a table like we did in chapter 8. You'll need to have, like we talked about, the form, okay? That can be a super simple form, maybe like name, comment, submit, okay? That covers the 3 elements for that. And then, like I said, the YouTube video or another type of multimedia piece on one of your pages, okay? So let's look at, so here's the rubric for everything. Okay, when we say the first one there, publish to the web, I'm not expecting you guys to publish this to a server or anything. It just means that everything needs to be contained within your folder, and you have all of your files in there that are ready to publish, okay? So I wanna make sure you're not missing any of your images or your CSS file or anything like that. Just everything needs to be ready to go if you were to publish it to a website. Purpose, again, talking about your target audience, what's the purpose of your site? So some of that should be included in the text on the homepage. Visual appeal, again, make sure you use color correctly, you have good contrast, that your graphics load correctly. The navigation, okay, easy to use, navigate consistent through all your pages. The layout, okay, you just want to have a nice balanced site. Don't want to have like, 4 paragraphs of text on your homepage. That'd be way too much. Okay, so I'm just looking for a nice balance of text and graphics. With your page titles, okay, remember to title your pages. Don't use the default of untitled. Okay, so you want to include a page title. Spelling, grammar, talked about that. Okay, and then the rest of these, like table, graphics, email links, all those, again, just I'm going to be looking at your syntax. So making sure that you're using the proper HTML and CSS syntax on those. Meta tags. Okay, we talked about meta tags was it last week or the week before. I'd include like keywords or a meta tag for description of your page. Okay, so you can look at the last couple chapters that we went over to look at meta tags, the form coding. Again, like I said, I'm going to check the syntax, make sure your form, the form processing. Like I said, you can use the same processor file that we did in the case study or some of those practice examples. Again, I don't require or expect you guys to set up your own backend service for that. You can just use a pre-packaged one. Again, the HTML and CSS validation would be a good idea to go through and make sure all that's working. And then your presentation, when you do present, make sure that everything's kind of organized and you talk about like the purpose, any challenges, and insights that you had during the process. And that kind of leads us to the presentation part here. Okay, so this is the rubric for the presentation. So when you do present, I'll kind of expect you guys to cover these different topics, right? What a lot of students have done in the past is actually kind of put together a real simple, like a eight slide PowerPoint that kind of covers all of these. And then from there, then they actually open up the site in the browser and go through it. So if you want to do a kind of a PowerPoint or PDF slideshow that covers these, that would be great. I've had a lot of students do that. It seems to kind of help them get through the presentation process a little easier. But if you don't, I'll just be expecting you to make sure that you cover all of these when you're showing your site. Okay, so talking about the site purpose, again, talking about the target audience, okay, talking about what your purpose of your site is, what it's for, talking about your pages, why did you include certain pages in your site, how do they help with the overall purpose of your site, each of those pages. Talking about your main features, okay, so again, talking about the, if you have a gallery or some kind of a main feature of your site that you talk about that. Talking about your design, why you chose certain colors, certain graphics, okay? And then again, talking about the problems and the challenges that you encountered and how you overcame those challenges when you were working, whether it was emailing me or finding information on a website like W3 School or something like that. And talking about the things that you gained as far as knowledge-wise, what are the main things you learned throughout this process of the project, and then just make sure that your stuff's kind of organized and be confident with your site. Okay, have some enthusiasm for your site. It's something that you should be proud of. You've worked hard on, and when you present it, kind of want to see that demeanor. Right. Okay, so those are the 3 main documents that you can use to help kind of guide you through the process of the project. All right. So any questions about any of that? Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any. All right, so here's kind of how the rest of the class is going to go. So we won't meet on Wednesday or Friday of this week. I'm going to just kind of leave it as an open week to for you guys to keep working on your site, especially for this week, working on that homepage to get that turned in by the 20th. All right. And then we have Thanksgiving break. So I don't expect you guys to work much on anything during that break. That's a time for you guys to take a breather, unwind, de-stress, you know, get away from everything for a little bit, kind of have a mental break. And then when we get back, we will have a check-in on the Monday when we get back from Thanksgiving. Okay, so I'll just kind of check in, see how everybody's doing, answer any questions that you guys might have. And then we'll let you guys keep working the rest of that week, which is dead week. And then we'll be ready to go for Monday of finals week for you guys to present. Okay. So that's kind of the plan. Also a reminder, if you still have until the end of this week to get any late missing assignments done. Okay, so you can still get those turned in and get 75% of the credit for those. So again, that's better than getting a 0. So if you do have any missing stuff, make sure that you get those turned in. Had a couple students that asked about quizzes. I will go ahead and open up the quizzes from chapter 7 on, in case you missed one of those, that you can go ahead and take that quiz. But again, I'll just take 25% off, just like any of the other assignments for the quizzes. Okay. All right, so, and I'll have pretty much everything up to this point graded here in the next couple days. So then the only things left will be any late stuff that comes in by the weekend. I'll get graded over Thanksgiving, and then it'll just be the final project, okay? So, and it's a big one. It's worth quite a bit. So make sure you guys put in the effort and the time to work on that. So that's kind of why I'm giving you guys the rest of the week to just focus on that, and the dead week when we get back to work on that as well. All right, guys, I don't have anything else for you. If there's no other questions, I'll let you guys go. But if you do have anything that comes up, if you're having trouble with anything, or don't need a little more clarity on anything with the final project, please email me and I'll get back with you on that. So other than that, if I don't see you guys in the meantime, have a great Thanksgiving break. Again, take time to de-stress and spend some time with family and friends, and we'll see you on the Monday when you guys get back. Okay, bye.